I know that you have at Essential, you have a standalone wrestling coach that
I
teaches
do. I do.
techniques and approaches. So I've always, coming into this later in life, right? Like I started jujitsu in 2019, so I've been doing it like a little better than
Nice.
5 years, and I've
Very
always felt
cool.
like a jujitsu academy lacking a wrestling focus. It doesn't mean that
Mm,
you have to overhaul the class structure, but I've always felt that given the nature of
yeah.
the sport, the nature of the art form, and the self defense applications, right? Because of what you just said,
Yeah.
control, it almost behooves each academy to dedicate something to wrestling, whether it's dedicated stand up and takedown, even if it's at 50%, right? And you're just learning how the bodies interact with each other in that instance. But why decide to have a standalone wrestling coach in your academy? And what do you think you're getting out of that that maybe some other schools miss uh, by not valuing that or not thinking that it really has a place in the jiu-jitsu academy?
That's a great question, man. I think adding the wrestling. I also have a judo instructor, Sensei Shintaro at the academy now too. Adding some sort of takedown
Who's that?
aspect
No.
to the gym. Another living
Just
legend,
kidding.
man.
Yeah,
Uh,
right.
adding the takedown aspect to the jiu-jitsu game, to the jiu-jitsu academy, has done wonders for myself and for my students, right? From and I look at it from two different points. If you want to compete, you have to be comfortable on your 2 feet. You have to be
Right.
comfortable, right? When we go compete, you start on your 2 feet. We don't start on the knees. You don't start in the closed guard. You don't start in whatever, right? You start from your 2 feet. Now, whether you're a guard player, whether you're a top passer type of jiu-jitsu player, to me it doesn't matter. You should understand how to wrestle or how to play a bit of judo to get your partner down to the mat in a safe and efficient manner. Now, the other way I look at it too, from a self-defense perspective, right? If you're in a self-defense type situation, God forbid, you have to protect yourself, right? I don't expect anybody to have to pull guard. I don't want it. I wouldn't want anybody to have to pull guard, right?
Right.
It can be dangerous if you're defending yourself. So I think learning to be comfortable on your feet, closing the distance, and taking someone down to the ground safely, where you can later pin them down until help comes or whatever it may be, is also a big plus. So I think
Right.
having takedowns a part of any jiu-jitsu program is valuable. I know it's done wonders for myself, for my students, and we see it. We see it in the results. I have an academy where I have a lot of people who love to compete. Uh,
Right.
we see my academy doing pretty well, from the kids to the adults to the masters. And I think it's because obviously we practice our jujitsu at a high level, but also we practice our takedowns at a high level. So it gives us a different just gives us more weapons, more tools to play with. And again, if you ever find yourself in a self defense situation, which I hope no one ever does, you also can feel comfortable protecting yourself from the 2 feet or on your 2 feet.
Yeah, it's always surprised me having competed in jiu-jitsu and been now part of, because of moving in the pandemic, several different academies, that all jiu-jitsu competitions start standing, right? ADCC rule
Yep.
set, WNO, fight to
Yep.
win, quintet.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't matter what you're doing, you're going to start on the feet every single
That's right.
time. Almost every single training session starts slap hands seated. It's like,
Yeah.
how is the sport competed this way every single time? And almost every single academy neglects to teach that. And I don't know if it's a, maybe there's some apprehension around the risk, right? Because if you have an unskilled judoka who
Yeah.
doesn't understand judo teaching people judo,
Right.
that's risky. If you
Right.
have someone who doesn't
Yeah.
understand wrestling teaching people wrestling, again, that's risky. So if people are getting
Hundred
hurt
percent.
standing up, it's a no-brainer, right? You shut it down in your academy because of the liability. You don't want people to get hurt and then stop coming. But it's too much of a missed opportunity to build skill set and confidence. Because then when you get in that situation and someone grabs you upright for the first time, the disorientation of that alone can totally throw off whatever game plan you think exists. And then somehow you're on the ground and maybe you lost points or advantage in the process, all because it just wasn't practiced.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. It blows my mind that some programs don't have takedowns in their programming. I think It's a big part that people are missing out on. But people are catching up though. People
Yeah.
are catching on with it as well as we see it. We see takedowns being so uh, playing such a big role in competition, especially within like who's number one, ADCC,
Yeah.
even like the even like the 66 kilo guys, guys who are usually known for their guard work. You see them wrestling
Right.
now. You see people hitting takedowns from all different weight classes, from light to heavy. Everyone, male, female, kids, everyone's hitting takedowns now. And maybe I hope set the trend. People saw
Right.
how I won two ADCCs back to back, 2017, 2019. I won't lie. A big part of me winning those two titles back to back was me wrestling people down to the mat and pinning them down, taking their backs or whatever it may be. But takedowns were a big part of my game, working up towards those two world titles.